Okay guys, welcome to the 140.6 media tutorial on the Ironman Lake Placid Bike course. I've ridden this course roughly half dozen times, raced last year. So right now we are starting out at the 180 degree turn just at the mount line, where you're going to see all the parts of the course. You're going to see the keen descent, you're going to see the infamous cold and av drops, and you're going to see the God, Market, and Foundation hills, as well as the Route 86 climb up the notch. So get your bottles filled, get on your trainer, let's go for a ride. So here we go, guys. You're on the bike, you've just come out of transition, you've just got out of the water. You just got on the bike, and the first thing you see is a downhill 180 degree turn, which normally wouldn't be a problem, except you're making that very same 180 degree turn with about 30 to 40 other cyclists who are doing the same thing as you. So now what's going to happen is you're coming down, and you're now on Colden Avenue. There won't be, on race day, there won't be these cars here. This will be wide open, and it's dangerous. This is probably, in my humble opinion, the most dangerous section of the entire Ironman Lake Placid Bike course. There's so much that can go wrong here. You've got two major hills to deal with, and a 90 degree turn at the bottom of the hill. Now, these two hills will have you going roughly 35 to 40 miles an hour. Now you can't really see them because they've covered them up for public relations purposes, but behind that blue tarp over there are hay bales, and they're there for a reason, because every year one hotshot who thinks he's Ricky Bobby comes down here at 50 miles an hour, catches an edge, and goes flying into the hay bales, ending his day in the first 2 minutes of his race. So now you're on Mill Street, you're making a right onto Sentinel, which will turn into Cascade in a couple of moments here. So right now you're just chilling. You know, you're trying to get your legs and your wits about you after the 2.4 swim. This is all, you know, low to medium cadence. You know, your race hasn't even really started yet. So you've got a major climb to make coming out of town, and on the second loop, these small little hills are going to feel ginormous. These hills on the second loop are just going to be relentless. So now you're cruising along. If this is your second loop, right about now you're eating. You got a nice flat section. You don't have to worry about making any climbs or any descents. If it's the second loop, traffic isn't going to be that great in this section of the course. So this is going to be a good time to take a gel or two, maybe eat the peanut butter sandwich you picked up in special needs, maybe get some hydration in you, and just get ready. If it's the first loop, you are amped. You are so psyched that you got out of the water. You know, you want to hit this section of the course all Tour de France like. Don't do it. Don't even think of doing it, because you will pay on the second loop most dearly. The trick to the Ironman Lake Placid Bike course is very simple. Your first loop, you should be riding at a pace and a cadence that you can literally stop and smell the roses and see everything that's going on around you. Because let's face it, Ironman Lake Placid is far and away one of the most scenic courses in all of the Ironman series races. There's some good folks training. So now you're heading out of town, and this is where the loneliness begins, because if it's your first loop, you got out of transition, you came down Colden Ave, you know, you saw the people on Sentinel and Mill Street, and you're stoked. You are absolutely stoked. If it's the second loop, you're a bit tired. you just came through downtown, through Parkside Drive and onto Main Street, and then behind the high school, and you felt like a rock star for about 10 minutes. Well, now you're back out here, you're by yourself, and now you're tired. Now, this is actually one of the more scenic, well, historically scenic parts of the courses, because to the left, you've got the 1980 Winter Olympic torch that's still there, and then straight ahead, as you can see, are the ski jumps. And I don't care how many times you come to Lake Placid, no matter how many times you volunteer or do this race or just come here with your family, ski jumps are amazing. So now here's where the real work begins on the Ironman Lake Placid bike course. You actually get this nice downhill roller, and this is a serious downhill grade. This is probably, I want to say maybe 4 to 5%, and it's nice because it gives you a a nice little rolling head start into the climb that you're about to hit. Now, a lot of people, I'm not one of them, but a lot of people will say that this is the actual most difficult part of the Ironman Lake Placid bike course because of this climb being so early in the loop. I'm not sure I agree with that. Now, I'm not going to discount the gradient of the climb. I mean, as you can see, we're climbing, and we're going to be climbing for quite some time here. But I think that the place on Route 86, when we come back from Ausable Forks, is going to be, you will see, as a far more difficult climb. Now, this is a consistent climb. I'm not going to deny that. And on the second loop, this hill is going to be a grinder. You are not going to be liking yourself on the second loop here. As you saw, that athlete we just went by, cresting the top of the hill, looked a tad winded, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. This course, the Ironman Lake Placid bike course, is no joke. There's some more athletes training. I seriously doubt any of those are folks who will be racing tomorrow. Those are possibly folks out here experiencing the course, checking it out, seeing if it's for them. I think that's necessary. If you guys are going to spin to this video, and I'm glad you guys do. I'm glad you guys like the 140.6 media videos, but Lake Placid is a bike course that you have to experience before you decide whether or not you want to lay down your money and enter this race. So now we're going to hit a little bit of a downhill roller here. I believe on race day there's an aid station coming up here somewhere, I think just past the Cascade Inn. And yep, there it is. You can see the markings on the right side. This is an aid station. And also, we just passed on the second loop. It's the 60-mile mark. Now, I'm usually not a big fan of two-loop courses, but Ironman Lake Placid gets an exception simply because it is so scenic and so beautiful and so difficult. I mean, granted, there is no such thing as an easy 112-mile bike ride. I get that. I agree with you. But this course, you earn your medal. So now, as you can see, we've hit another roller, and we're getting ever more closer to the infamous Keene descent. probably one of the most famous parts of the Ironman Lake Placid Bike course, second only to the Three Bears, which you will see later on in this video. Now, one of the things that I did after riding this course so many times is I broke the course down into checkpoints. Not so much aid stations. I mean, you can get away with that on the run course, but on a bike course, it's still 112 miles, and you need something to break up the monotony. And I figured out that there were spots that if I reach this, you know, I'm so far along in the race. And granted, you could do that with the mile markers, but for me, the way my mind worked on this bike course, it wasn't exactly every 10 or 20 miles. You know, there were parts where you would hit a hill and you would start getting winded, and you would see this landmark, you know, okay, I got a downhill roller coming up, so mentally you could bear through the climb you were making here. We're getting real close to one of those said checkpoints. We should be coming up to here pretty soon. Right there it is, right on time, the Mount Hovenberg Recreation Area, better known as the bobsled runs. During the summer, they have what's called the wheeled bobsleds, and they put rollerblade wheels on the bobsleds and send you down at, I think, 70 or 80 bucks a pop. They're open today, as a matter of fact. Maybe sometime. Okay, we're right around the corner, literally, from the beginning of the Keene descent. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Keene descent before we actually arrive to it. There's two trains of thought for this portion of the course. There's some folks who believe that, you know, if they had a bad swim or they had a bad transition, they could make that time up on the Keene descent. I'm not so sure I agree with that. A couple guys smarter than I did a study and said that if you hammer the Keene descent, or if you ride the Keene descent normally, there's about a 3-minute difference in the times. Now, 3 minutes is 3 minutes, but 3 minutes in a 15-hour day? Are you kidding me? Especially when you're running the risk of crashing. So here we go, guys. Those signs that you went by, the use low gear signs, again, checkpoint. That's telling you we are on the Keene descent, and it is on. So now, me personally, I've got nothing to prove. You know, I'm one of those guys who does races to finish and have a good time. So I'm doing what this athlete in front of us is pretty much doing. I pretty much coast down the Keene descent and maybe crank on these rollers. See, now I would have, if I was that athlete, I would have cranked up this roller to gain some extra speed coming back down this side. Now on the left side, you're going to see a stone wall. Now, if you're doing the race, this is important, because on that stone wall is the photographer. You always want to look good for the photographer. There he is, right there on the left. On the right, by the way, is Cascade Lake. Very good fishing there, from what I am told. Very scenic. You know, while you're zipping along at 40 miles an hour, you got some cool things to see. Always a good time. So now you got another little climb here. This climb is, for as gradient as it looks, it really is nothing, because you're hitting that climb at anywhere between 35 and 40 miles an hour. So now you came on the downside of it, and now you're moving. You're moving again. Now, some folks think that this is a good time to maybe grab a drink, hydrate. Of all the spots on the Keene descent, maybe this would be the spot to do it. But I can pretty much assure you, with the portions of 73 that are still unpaved, I'm not sure, you know, pulling a drink right now would be the wisest of strategies, especially when you're going to be exerting so little energy on this descent. I would wait till we get to the bottom. You'll see at the bottom of the Keene descent when we make the turn onto 9N. You'll see where we make the turn onto 9N, and that's where you can start pulling your drinks and your hydration, getting something to eat. Now, on race day, it is imperative that you do not lose focus on the Keene descent. Not only because of the extreme speeds. These roads, yes, the New York Department of Transportation did a great job paving portions of the Keene descent, but for the most part, this is what you're seeing. Now, this road is bumpy. And people are hitting these bumps at, what, 40 miles an hour, and the pros will go even faster. You hit these bumps at 40 miles an hour, you got bottles flying off your bike. And now you've got these big plastic water bottles sliding all over the street, creating obstacles, which normally isn't, I mean, it's bad, but it's not too bad if you're out there and it happens way ahead of you and you can see it and you can make your course corrections and miss the water bottle. But if the guy just in front of you drops a water bottle right in your lap, there's a decent chance that you're going down, and you're going down hard. You're going down at 40 miles an hour. Not a pleasant thought at all. Right now, I haven't touched the gas pedal. I have not touched the gas pedal, and I'm going 45 miles an hour. We are coasting at 47, 48 miles an hour. And that's about the speed, maybe even a little faster, that the pros will take the Keene descent. For us age groupers and us mere mortals, we're looking at anywhere between 38 and 40 miles an hour. And I got to tell you, on the second loop, I was leaning on the brakes halfway down this descent. And I'm glad to see that it's paved. It's really good to see that the Keene descent is now paved, because for a bunch of years prior, Route 73 coming down the Keene descent was cracked. There were snowplow tears where the snowplow bounced off the surface, creating these little chop marks in the road, and you know it wasn't a very safe ride. I mean, the coast, you know, the ride down the Keene descent was as exhilarating as it gets, but it was still a dangerous ride that you had to maintain focus for. And the Keene descent goes for approximately 10K or 6.2 miles. Some more athletes out there training. Now, I think this is the last major dive before we get down into the village of Keene. I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far. We've got at www.140.6media.com, we've got other Ironman branded races, as well as Challenge and Rev 3. So 140.6media.com for all your training videos and all your nutritional needs. So go check it out as you're training for your season. Now, as you can see, we are dropping. We are descending rapidly. Now, this is another thing that folks talk about with the keen descent, is that makes it so difficult, is we literally made a 120 degree turn, and now we're about to make another roughly 90 degree turn, and you're doing all of this at roughly 40 miles an hour on a bicycle. And now we're coming down into the village of Keene, and you've just about completed the Keene descent. Got a little bit more to go here. I know when I got to this point, my race here last year, with between the water on the roads, the slippery road conditions, the cracked road conditions, the water bottles bouncing all over the place, I got to the bottom of the Keene descent frazzled. I was toast when I got to the bottom of this hill, especially on the second loop. Now, here comes something really cool that all the folks training try to go for. It'll be coming up on the right. The cyclists try to set off the speed meter. See it over there on your right? The cyclists will try to get themselves to be read on the speed meter. Kind of cool little thing. Now, as we get to the bottom of the hill, we're going to make a left turn onto 9N. We'll be coming up here shortly. And the reason I spoke about it a little bit early here is because on the right is going to be this really cool little general store. And granted, you can't do anything on race day, but if you're coming out here to train, as you can see, it's already crowded and packed. Over here on the right, the Adirondack Cafe is a fantastic place to stop, refill your water bottles, grab a little something to eat, hang out. Usually on a weekend that's not a race weekend, you'll get a ton of cyclists in there. Now we're making a left onto 9N for one of the more scenic portions of this course. As we see, we got a couple athletes on the right here strategizing for the 9N stretch. Okay, now we're on 9N, and now we're gonna go all the way out to Ausable. Now, there's a couple small rollers here, but for the most part, this is going to be fun, flat, and fast. You know, we talked about, you know, should you get nutrition and hydration on the Keene descent, and I advised strongly against it, and this is why. Look what you're on right now. You literally coasted for 6.2 miles down that screaming hill, and now you're on a nice flat area, nice and quiet. You know, you can put yourself into a good solid cruising gear where your cadence is nice, and now you can pull out your chews, your goos, whatever, your peanut butter sandwich you saved from Bike Special Needs. Now you can empty a bottle, because coming up here in a couple miles is going to be an aid station where you can pick up a couple fresh Perform bottles. And I don't care what anyone says, I like the taste of Perform. And no, I'm not an Ironman homer, I just like the taste of the stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about that. This little hill here on the second loop was annoying But this downhill on this side was actually kind of cool, because it was like a false flat downhill that seemed to go on a little bit longer than it actually looks. You would think that the false flat ends about here, but it doesn't. It actually this false flat downhill actually ends around the corner here. So now you're cruising. On the first lap, you're riding along. On the left side, you've got one of the forks for the Au Sable River, and it's actually pretty soothing. You hear the water rustling. It's kind of nice. Here's another little uphill, but I don't know. Neither loop, this hill, affected me one way or the other. Oh, the porta potties are out for race day. That's a pretty smart place for one. The porta potties look like they said do not open till Christmas. So now you got a nice little downhill here, and you're doing well here. If you're a decent cyclist, this is, again, if you're a decent cyclist, this is where you're going to make up your time that you may have lost on the swim, or a misexecuted transition. This is where you're going to make it up. This is a place where, if you're a really good cyclist, you can crank on this section. For the average age grouper, on the first loop, you're sightseeing. You're looking for bears. You're looking at the babbling brook over here on the Au Sable River. You're talking to your fellow athletes. You're just cruising along. It's been said on the first loop of Ironman Lake Placid's bike course that you want to be able to remember everything you saw. You don't want to be out here on the first loop hammering and trying to crush it, because the second loop of this bike course will absolutely end your day. Because we haven't even hit the two most difficult portions of the course. The God Market Foundation Hills, and then the infamous climb up the notch back to Placid. So now we should be coming up around this bend a little bit. We should be coming up to the first bike aid station. Now, if you ride aero, this is like that athlete we just passed. That's what made me think of it. This is a good place to ride aero. Nothing real technical, nice and relatively flat. Drop down into your aero bars and start hammering. Now, one of the more important things you need to keep in mind with the Lake Placid bike course is the topography. And I'm not just talking about the hills, because there's plenty of hills that you have to contend with. There's weather. I remember last year when I came up for the Fireman Ironman camp, we were doing 2 loops of the bike course as part of the camp. And on the first loop, people over by the Bears were getting rained on, while people out here on 9N were literally sunny and dry. It's a joke that many people talk about Lake Placid, that if you don't like the weather at Lake Placid, just wait 15 minutes. Well, there is an element of truth to that. There really is an element of truth to that. And now we're making the right, and we're heading out towards the Jays. Now, the tape that you saw on the roads, that tape isn't going to be there on, any other weekend. The course is set for the race, which, by the way, is tomorrow. So we're out here the day before Ironman Lake Placid 2014. So the beauty of it is, and we're going to talk about this, there's turnarounds that, aside from race day, will go unmarked. Okay, that parking area half a mile on race day is going to be one of your aid stations. Aid station, porta potty station. Now, I can't say enough about the volunteers at Lake Placid, especially on the bike course. They really do you a great service. They are very, very helpful. Many of the volunteers are athletes who have done the race prior and pretty much know what you're going through. If you're doing the race, make sure you thank them. So while we're actually talking about that, let's talk about some aid station etiquette. If you've never done an Ironman distance race, your first couple aid stations are going to be confusing. You're not going to really understand what's going on, but by the third or fourth aid station on the bike, you'll have it down. The way it works is simple. As you're coming up to the aid station, there's going to be a big hockey net, a real hockey goal. And those are for your empties. So you're going to take your empty water bottles and you're going to try to score a goal. You're going to throw them into the hockey net. You're going to aim for the hockey net. And after that, I believe it goes perform, water, food, water, perform. It may have changed, but I think that's how I think you begin and end with perform, and then the middle is water, and then the food is in the center. If you don't want anything from the aid station, which why anyone would want to blow by an aid station is beyond me, but if that's what your head is at, swing wide left, because people are going to be slowing down. Actually, here comes the aid station up here, because there's the porta potty. Yeah, that's right, the aid station was before the hills coming into the Jays. Yeah, this is the aid station right here. Now, if you're looking for aid from the aid station, I'm not saying you maintain your speed, but do not, and I repeat, I can't say this enough, do not stop at an aid station. You will cause a multi-car pileup. I can't stress it enough. When you're grabbing for bottles, if you miss it, if you drop it, screw it, keep going. There'll be another one a couple 20 or 30 feet in front of you. But do not stop in an aid station. You can stop at an aid station, but you have to go past it, where all the drops are being made and all the pickups are being made. You need to keep going. You need to be cruising. So that's all I'll say on aid station etiquette. Also, please, do not throw your empty goo wrappers into people's front yards. That's how we don't get invited back, and Ironman contracts don't get renewed at this beautiful, beautiful area. So hold on to your goo wrappers until you find an aid station and you can dump them there. Alright, so now we just passed the Jays and we're heading out to Ausable. We are on right now what is called the Ausable Out and Back. Couple rollers. The only thing really of note out here is what's called the Irene Wall. During Hurricane Irene, this whole area was under 11 feet of water, and a guy who owns a small business up here took it upon himself to spray paint on this huge cement wall the high water mark when Irene came through here. The Ausable River is off to our right. You can't really see it, but the Ausable River is right up against that wood line off to our right. And it's not a very big river, so to have 11 feet of water coming through here, things had to go pretty bad. But other than that, you're cranking along now. If it's the first loop, you're actually starting to feel it now. You're starting to feel okay. Legs are working, things are feeling good. I got a nice little cadence here. You know, I'm just cruising along. You know, you may have hit the aid stations, you've had a couple bottles of Perform, or if you pre-mix your own drinks, you've had some of that nutrition, you've had a couple munchies. You're cruising now. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the course. You know, there's not a whole lot out here, but it was just interesting enough, and you had enough of a mix of rollers where you were able to get some free speed here and there, and it was nice. So a lot of camps and a lot of people, you know, when they're riding the Ironman Lake Placid bike course, will bypass the Ausable Out and Back and just make the left onto 86. And I strongly suggest against that. You know, I totally recommend that you do the Ausable Out and Back for the main two reasons. One, it's a really nice ride, very scenic, and two, if you're going to do either the 56 or the full 112 on your training ride, well, don't you want to get the full 56 or 112? Sure you do. So get out and do the Ausable Out and Back. Don't just make the left turn onto 86. So now we're cruising along. We're getting closer to Ausable. You can see the Ausable River to our right. Road conditions here are okay. They're not perfect, but they're not horrible. They're okay. Now coming up on the left is the infamous Irene Wall. You can see it on the left. So that's how high the Ausable River came up over its banks. Did a lot of damage. I can already see from last year from camp and doing the race that some of the homes that were flooded out during Irene are already gone. There used to be a bunch more homes in this area that aren't. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but it was right here in last year's Ironman Lake Placid 2013 that I got lapped by Andy Potts. I thought I got passed by 2 motorcycles, when the fact is it was only one, and then Andy Potts. So now you're cruising along. Got the Ausable River. Supposedly one of the finest trout streams in the Northeast. Now, guys, I want you to see this. That is a no-go right there. What you're seeing there is a no-go. That is how the locals get mad at us. That group should have been single file, riding along and not jumping out into the road like that. That is one of the big things that the locals complain about, is that the Ironman guys, the triathletes, the blank and blank cyclists hog up the road. Guys, we got to be better than that. If you're riding in a group and you know you're on a road that's open, you know what? Ingratiate yourself to the locals. Ride single file. Don't give them a reason for them to get mad at us. So now we're almost at the turnaround. Okay, now on race day, you're going to see the arrows as we're coming up. Right here, you can see it, guys. See the arrows? But when Ironman's not here, the turnaround is called College Street. So I'm going to pull up over in here so we can turn around safely and don't make anyone mad at us. So you see the X, the turnaround. That's called the College Street turnaround. So when you're out here training, you turn around at College Street. Remember that, guys, College Street. So when you're out here. All right, you've just you've done the Ausable out. Now it's time to do the Ausable back. So now you're cruising along. One of the weird things, and we talked about this before, was the weather. I want to talk about that again, especially here. For some reason, this area just catches all sorts of wind. So you could have been on the Ausable out and had a slight headwind, turned around at College Street. Now you're coming back and you're still feeling a headwind. You're going to feel that all over the course because I guess because of the wind coming through the mountains or whatever, but there's been days out here where we've had what I've nicknamed through the years a 360-degree headwind. So you're gonna wanna mentally prepare yourself for that, especially here at Lake Placid. You're gonna want to prepare yourself for little to no tailwinds. Last year when we raced, the headwind coming back up the Route 86 notch, which you'll see in a little bit in this video, was just evil. The headwind coming up the notch was just, it was brutal. It was unforgiving. I spoke to some folks today in the Ironman Village, and they were saying that the wind today, the day before the race for this year, was just as bad. So again, you want to mentally prepare yourself for a 12-mile climb with a headwind. Now, we also talked earlier in the day about checkpoints and trying to find things to make you feel good about yourself. Now, one of the coolest things that made me feel good about myself racing this last year was when I made the turn on the second loop at College Street. I was able to say, this is the farthest away from home or the finish line that I will ever be for the remainder of the day. This is the farthest away from home that I'm ever gonna be, and I'm turning around and I'm going back. So from here, it's all gravy. Well, minus the evil winds and the crazy hills you're going to see. But distance-wise, on the second loop, you can say that's the farthest away that I will ever be, and I'm going home from here. Again, it's those little things that you're going to need throughout the day to keep yourself mentally strong. Because this bike course is going to try to see fit that you will have no legs for the run. So you have to try to keep yourself mentally strong so that this course, which is going to try to DNF you. Don't get me wrong, this bike course is going to try to end your day. So you just need to find little pockets, little nuggets, if you will, of positive that will help you throughout the day. That's really important. So now, as you see, we've come up across a couple rollers here, and now you're coming back towards the J's. Now, if I were you, I would be taking in hydration and nutrition right now, because in a couple of miles here, you're gonna be in a tangle. You're gonna be in a fight here in a couple of miles, trying to get down to Wilmington and the very short, extremely shortened from previous years, Hazleton out and back. You know, I can't stress enough how beautiful the Adirondacks are. You know, this is scenic, this is beautiful, you know, it's an extremely difficult course, but the view, you can't beat it. It's just absolutely gorgeous out here. And it was right about here, guys, last year that the female champion, Jenny, blew by me like a rocket ship as well. Okay, we're getting ready. Now, like I said, you wanted to see, now these guys have it right. See, that's how you do it, guys. Single file, nice and organized. Those are experienced cyclists. They know the drill. All right, so I'm hoping by now you would have taken in a gel or two and taken in some Perform or whatever you're drinking. As I believe there's an aid station right up here coming up in this parking lot. Yeah, there's usually an aid station right here in this parking lot, right there. Alright guys, now it's time to put on your big boy and big girl pants because we're about to work. So you've taken in hydration, you've taken in nutrition. It's on now. Now we're going to conquer. To me, guys, this right here is your race. This is it right here. These 3 hills that you're about to climb on the way into Wilmington are going to absolutely, in my opinion, decide whether or not Mike Riley is going to scream your name at some point throughout that day, telling the entire world that you are an Ironman. These hills are no joke. These are God, market, and foundation hills. They are unforgiving, they are relentless, and they are long. People talk about the cherries and the bears, and absolutely, make no bones, the cherries and the bears are tough. And actually, the funny part is when we get to that point, I'm going to show you what's even nastier than Papa Bear. And I find it very diabolical of Ironman. You'll see when we get there. I don't want to break the surprise of that, but just remember that when you're coming back into town and you go up Mama Bear, Baby Bear, and Papa Bear, that's not your last climb. That is absolutely not your last climb, and you'll see what I mean. So as you see, we're on another climb. Now, right now, you're in. If you're hardcore, maybe you could do this big ring, but for most age groupers, we are now small ring cranking, and with a moderate to best you can cadence. Now, here's the drop into Wilmington. Now, I want you to look out. You're going to see Whiteface Mountain. You're going to see Whiteface Mountain in all its awesome glory. Don't get any pipe dreams. Don't think, oh my God, I see Whiteface, I'm almost home. That, sir, is the wrong answer. You are nowhere near home. Admire the beauty of Whiteface. Say, yo, man, I'd love to snowboard down that sometime. That'd be really cool. But as for thinking that your race is almost over, No. You still got some mileage to kick in. So admire the beauty of Whiteface, but just understand that just because you see Whiteface doesn't mean that you're almost back to Lake Placid. So as you can see, you're on some nice downhill. You got a nice little downhill cruise taking you into the small town of Wilmington, New York. Wilmington is actually the home to Whiteface Mountain, not Lake Placid. Some folks don't realize that. Wilmington also holds the Hazelton Out and Back. Look at all these hardcore cyclists out here training. See, the funny part is, on your second loop, right around here, you're looking at your watch, you're looking at your Garmin, you're looking at your cat eye, and you're thinking, I may actually get through this. You know, I might actually be able to do this. And for the most part, you're correct, because by this point on the second loop, aside from the notch, most of your significant climbs are over. And as you'll see, when we get to the notch, you'll see when we get to the notch that there's actually some rollers. Is that a bear?
No, it's a dog.
Oh.
That sounds great.
Yep. Puppy doesn't want to go home yet. Alright, so now you're cruising down into Wilmington. And now you're getting ready to make the Hazelton out and back. The Hazelton out and back used to be a whole lot longer than it is now. The Hazelton out and back used to have far more challenges with a significant climb that is no longer there. And as you can see, the arrow is telling us to turn right. We're going to turn right onto Hazelton Road. Now, on the left, you're going to see a firehouse. Guys, this is the greatest aid station of any of the aid stations in Ironman Lake Placid. These folks here, they know how to party. They bring it on race day. That is a good time. So make sure you stop into that aid station and take in the good vibes that they're passing around. Now, the Hazelton out and back is really only about a mile. So the Hazelton out and back is basically, you know, just a mile. Should be just on the other side. Yep, there it is. Here's the turnaround for the Hazelton out and back. Okay, so now we're heading for home. If this is the second loop and you made the turnaround at the Hazelton out and back, you're really starting to get excited now. You're tired, you're bushed, you're probably bored from being in the saddle for so long, but when you make the turnaround at the Hazelton out and back, you're really feeling pretty good about yourself, because you know in next hour or so, give or take, you're going to see your family again. And I can't stress how important having family out there is. It's having your family out there is so important. So now we're coming back by the Wilmington Firehouse rest area. And now we're going to make the turn back onto 86. Now there's cyclists who know what they're doing. right, now you're on 86. Now you're heading for home. There's cyclists who know to get into a single line. Very good, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, well executed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make the left onto the notch. On your second loop, this is an amazing turn. So on your second loop, you're psyching yourself up for this climb. So actually we'll be back in a little bit here. Okay, you're on Route 86 heading back. If it's your first loop, you're still feeling pretty refreshed. If it's a second loop, you're tired, but you're excited because you know you're almost home. See, the whole notch, the whole Route 86 stretch from Wilmington up through Whiteface and into Lake Placid isn't one straight continuous climb, much like everyone thinks. It's got some rollers, which we're on right now, and then there's really one serious climb, and that's from the bridge by the Foamy Gorge up to just past the entrance to the Whiteface Mountain Ski Area. So now you're cruising along. This is actually nice pedaling right here. You're cranking here. It's pretty nice. It's not a seriously killer climb. This might be an area, if you didn't take any nutrition in on the Hazelton out and back, this might be a time to take a quick drink, take in a gel or whatever, and get ready to start climbing again. Okay, your climbs start right around here. On the right is the Hungry Trout restaurant. Very popular for their dinners that feature wild game, bison, venison, things like that. Very nice restaurant, totally recommend it. When a fat guy like me recommends a restaurant, you know it's double thumbs up. So now you can see up ahead of you, the climb is starting up again. But as you've seen so far, there's been rollers. It hasn't been one consistent climb. It's been very fair. It's difficult, but it's fair. And if you look off to the right, you've got an outstanding view of the Whiteface Mountain Ski Area. So maybe I could turn the camera that way. Not really. So we'll keep it straight. here's the entrance to Whiteface, home of the 1932 and 1980 Winter Olympics. Also, if you go up on the gondola ride to the crest of Little Whiteface, they've got the monument for the 10th Mountain Division, which is kind of cool to see. They trucked a rock from Italy across the Atlantic, up into the Adirondacks, and then up Little Whiteface as a monument to the 10th Mountain Division, which used Whiteface Mountain as a training area during World War II. There's your history lesson for the day. So now you've passed Whiteface. Now you're really, if you're on your second loop, you're really starting to get excited, because you know your next stop is the Cherries and the Bears. You've got a couple more climbs to deal with here, but nothing, nothing extravagant. Oh, there's the signs out for the athletes. This is pretty cool, this High Falls Gorge thing. If you get a chance to check it out, I totally recommend it, because they've got some amazing waterfalls to check out. Now, one of the things you're going to be looking for up here in the next couple of miles are the signs for the cherry patch ponds. Those are going to tell you that you're almost home. Beautiful scenic, one of the forks of the Ausable River to our right. Now this is decent riding right here. The road is in very good condition. Now this climb on your second loop, it doesn't look like much, but this little climb right here, I don't know why, but this little climb that we're on right now put a whooping on me, both in Fireman Ironman as well as race day. I don't know what it was about that little hill, but it stomped me good. One of the important things you need to remember for the Ironman Lake Placid Bike course is, when you're at home and you're preparing for your race week, I completely recommend you packing just about everything you own. And the reason for that is, you can stare at the Weather Channel 10 days out, 7 days out, 5 days out, 4 days out, the day you would traditionally leave for Lake Placid for race day. And you just have to know that the weather report is going to change before race day. And we talked about this a little bit on 9M, but I do want to expand on this a little more. When you're packing your T1 bag, your swim to bike bag, you really want to consider putting in those sleeves. You really want to consider putting in that pair of gloves. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. You know, I know when we woke up this morning, it was in the 50s. I mean, it's very comfortable now at 75 degrees at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But you're going to be chilled from being in that water in Mirror Lake, and then you're going to get out on the bike and you're going to be cold. And you know what? Maybe those sleeves will be just what the doctor ordered for you. So when you're packing up and getting ready to leave for Lake Placid, go into your gear bag and pretty much drag everything out. You're going to want to drag wet weather gear, cold, as you are in the Adirondacks. And I can tell you at night, it gets a little chilly. So, again, pack wisely. You know, packing for Ironman Lake Placid is definitely a scenario of more is better. So now you're riding, you're getting ever closer to those key signs for Cherry Patch Pond. You get to Cherry Patch Pond and on your second loop, and you're just about home. You've pretty much done it. As you can see, we're on another little climb here, but you're rewarded with a very nice downhill roller. Alright guys, this is River Road. Very important. Remember we were talking about mental things and things that'll make you feel good? If you're on the second lap, you want to see that River Road, because what that tells you at that point, guys, this is important, that when you pass River Road on your second loop, you are no farther away from the finish line than the farthest point out on the run course. So now we're on the stretch for the Cherries and the Bears. So now you're almost home. Remember that, guys. Remember that thing about River Road. That might actually help you sometime. And there it is, guys, Cherry Patch Pond. We're in the cherries now. Little cherry and big cherry. And now, guys, the next stop is the Three Bears. In the middle of the Bears right now, and when we turn this corner we should see Papa Bear. This looks like Mama. That looks like Baby up there where that car's coming around. And there's Papa Bear, guys. This is your last climb of Ironman Lake Placid. And let me tell you something. This is a party. From right about here, where we are now, to the top, it's like a Tour de France climbing stage. There's people out on the road cheering you on, freaking out. Iron Fan spends a lot of time here. The two girls who dress up. It's complete lunacy here. Now what's going to happen is you're going to slow up right here. You're going to slow up right here and make this right. And guess what? You're going to get hit with another hill, as if it wasn't cruel enough. You've just climbed and climbed and climbed, and now you think, wow, I'm through Papa Bear, everything's cool, and now they hit you with another hill. This is really cool during race day too, because a lot of fans, a lot of people are in here. It's really loud, it's really crazy. It's going to feel real good on the second lap. Alright, we're going to take this up to Mirror Lake Drive, and then that will conclude the Hazelton out and back to Mirror Lake Drive. And for this blog, you will now have the entire 56-mile bike loop of the Ironman Lake Placid Bike course.
So you have to do this twice?
Yes, sir.
Oh my god. That's nuts. We'll try much out left.
We're going to make a left.
Yes, Paul McCall.